voice of Alexandra Tressa herself, Liza Soberano. Liza, can you put hi, and thank you for calling from Manila. Oh, actually, from Northern Philippines. It's wonderful to see you. I'm just going to read your bio really quickly. Liza Soberano is a Filipino-American actress and model. She starred in a range of television series and films, including Once Upon a Time, Kung Ako'y Iiwan Mo, She's the One, and Must Be Loved. She rose to prominence after playing the protagonist in the romantic comedy TV series Forevermore with Enrique Gil. She has since paired with Gil in the films The Way You Are, Every Day I Love You, My Ex and Wise, Alone Together, which is a favorite of mine, and the television series Dulce Amor, Bagani, and Make It With You. Welcome, Liza.
Hello, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today. Thank you.
It's an honor. So next on the panel, we want to bring the pilot director of the series, Jay Oliva, and executive producer. An animation industry veteran since 1996, Jay Oliva has crafted storyboards for Spider-Man, Winnie the Pooh, and everything in between. He's directed a dozen animated films for both Marvel and DC, as well as the acclaimed Young Justice series, in addition to teaching the cinematic storyboard class at Loyola Marymount University that ushered in a generation of talent to the industry. In 2012, Jay was recruited by Zack Snyder to storyboard the DC cinematic universe, beginning with Man of Steel. I would love to ask how Liza got into the project. Liza, do you want to share that story, or Tanya, do you have a story about that as well?
I think Liza can share.
Oh, okay. Well, basically last year, 2020, my handler from Star Magic messaged me and asked me if I wanted to be part of an anime that would be produced by Miss Tanya Yusun and also with Netflix. And of course, I think anybody here, like in the Philippines, would love to be given that opportunity to be able to work with Netflix. And so obviously I was excited about it and I said yes right away. But I was also kind of hesitant because voice acting is something I've never done, and I was kind of scared of messing up or failing. And I know that everybody has been working so hard on this project, and it really means so much to everybody. So I wanted to make sure that I would be able to deliver. And so I'm so glad that I got past those hesitations and those fears. And I'm so proud and happy to be part of this project. It's amazing. Everybody did an amazing job, and you can just feel the overwhelming love and passion that they have for this project.
I completely agree. I think that, looking at especially just the hashtags and seeing the comments, you can really see how much people wanted a story like this, especially right now. Actually, yeah, I was switching in between. I wanted to hear both, and there is that slang element to the Tagalog dub, which I really, really love. And that's why I can't wait to watch the whole series twice over. Which brings me, you helped for my question for Liza. How did Rudolph direct you for Alexandra? Because Alexandra has a calmness around her through these situations that are terrifying. And so was that, like that characterization, was that something you brought in? Did Rudolph and you talk about that?
Yeah, because I had asked for a workshop prior to the dubbing. And so when we were going through that session, I was kind of trying to get a grasp of what he imagined the character to sound like. And so when we were going back and forth, I kept in mind that Jay had told me that she's kind of similar to like Batman in a way. And so I had kept that in mind. And I tried to keep in mind that I have to have like a certain coldness to myself. Like she's kind of stoic in a way. And then when we were doing when we were dubbing finally, Rudolph had to keep reminding me of like avoiding because I kind of sound like a little girl still. So we were trying to avoid myself from sounding like a little girl. And he was great because he kept on reminding me to lower my voice and to sound more stoic in a way. That's how he kept on, that's how he was basically motivating me.
I think you can really tell. Like it's, I do think that you do have a maturity to your voice at the same time. But just now that you say Batman, I think that clicks for me, and I can sense that layer. That's great.
Thank you.
Speaking of that was So speaking of voices, Dante, we're seeing an advent of like Filipino narratives these days, especially what was the hardest artistic choice / decision you made in the making of Trese? And was that decision worth it?
That's a good question. By the way, if you hear beeping, it's because I just had a blackout, so there's no power. But luckily, I have a little generator. But if you hear that, it's not because I'm having like an air raid or something. It's just there's no power here. In terms of the hardest creative decision, I think for me it was trying to make sure I was doing something that Philip.
But it's interesting to see like what hits 15 years later. It might have been what hits harder 15 years ago, or like when we started working on this 2.5 years ago, and then now. So it could be different things, but it is interesting to watch kind of what will resonate with people as the time goes on from like the source material up until you're adapting it.
That's really well said. And, it's a sad state that, things haven't changed. But what's great is that when you bring it to light, especially in a global audience, hopefully someone will want to change things because of it. Okay, I'm going to read some questions from the audience now because we're in that portion. So from Jackie Marzan, congratulations, Team Trese. And this is for everybody. What were your biggest doubts and fears in taking on such an iconic series, and what kept you grounded through the process? Yes, anybody?
Liza, do you want to start or like?
I guess I can start. Basically, my biggest fear was just letting down Tanya and the rest of the creators of Tresse. Of course, that was like I said earlier, that was my biggest hesitation because I've never done voice acting, and I just really wanted to make them proud, and I hope I did so.
Yeah, no, Liza is amazing. You look at her body of work, and maybe people would be like, "What? I don't know if she could be Alexandra Tressa because like." She's either the sweet girl, she's like, and she is like in real life, that's who she is. But there was something about it. I was like, okay, usually the ones who are really nice, they've got like this really good strength in them because it's hard to be good in a world that's not always good sometimes. So we saw that and we were like, she could do it. And when we met her the first time, she had read everything. Like we had sent her the books ahead, and at that point she came prepared. She had like, I was like, okay, she could totally do it. And then when we saw it, we're like, okay, justified. Like she pulled it off, and it was such a great performance for her.
Awesome. What was your favorite lines? Like, what was your favorite lines that Alexandra said? And then after Liza answers, maybe if anyone has a favorite line they wrote as well.
I don't know how exactly it went, but it's something like may mga halimaw din sa totoong buhay, hindi lang mukhang halimaw. Something like that. Something to that effect. That's my favorite line because it's so true. Especially now in this day and age, a lot of people like to hide behind disguises, mask themselves as someone who's trying to help you. I realize that because I'm getting older now. So yeah, it's very relatable to me.
For those who don't speak Tagalog, can you translate what that means?
Basically, that means there's monsters in real life. They just don't look like monsters.
Yeah, that is a great line. Tanya, you wrote that, right?
Yes. Thanks, Liza. I love you.
In the chat box as well, we're going to wrap this up. So I'm going to ask the last couple questions. Jem Ron Cadis asks, I know budget and time could be a factor, but I'm curious as why the season was only 6 episodes. Was that a deliberate decision to make it short and concise?
I mean, when we started, when Netflix picked it up, it was kind of a gamble for them because when you think about it, the Philippines isn't a very big market, even though right now we're kind of the top consumers for Asia for Netflix. But even in that case, it's like, okay, then is it saturated? Do you have like that much further to go? So picking it up was on, to Netflix's credit, was a gamble, but they're like, this is something that we feel is great and we feel like it represents the Philippines strongly, but has the potential to cross over. So 6 episodes was a way to mitigate that gap.